Welcome everyone to the Community Office Hours. Thank you so much for joining us. Really excited to have you all here again. So today is a really exciting session. We have two community members talking to us about how they use Gitpod. So just before we get started, I want to just remind everyone, if you aren't talking, please go on mute. If you don't, and you can't find the mute button, I will just mute you as the moderator, and I will also unmute you if you need to talk. And also, as a reminder, on the top right-hand corner, there's this little chat icon. If you click on that and you want to just write text whilst you're watching the community office hours and you have questions, just throw it all in there and I will read it out during the Q&A session for each session, for each talk. And also, if you do want to go off mute and want to talk to the rest of us during the allocated slot, then just go off mute and start talking, because even though this is being recorded, we will only publish the demos on YouTube. So yeah, that's how we're going to do this office hours today. And today, just for a bit more extra context, so we've got AXON, one of our Gitpodders and community engineer. You might have seen him floating around the server helping you with every single Gitpod question out there, but he's going to give us a really he's going to give us a talk and a demo about how he utilizes dotfiles with the brand new SSH capabilities of Gitpod and more. Sorry, I was just reading my little blurb. And more. And then also after he's given his demo, and also if you have any questions for him, we'll have 5 or 10 minutes. And then we have our friends from WaspLang here to give us a talk about how they utilize Gitpod. And yeah, you can see them all waving. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. Really excited to have you here. And then we'll have about half an hour for you folks to give a demo, and any questions that pop up, throw them in the chat or feel free to go off mute. And with that, I think that's enough from me. AXON, are you ready?
So I'm just going to open the link on item, and it will directly take into my workspace. In the bottom, you can see all of my Gitpod tags as Tmux windows. So I can just switch through them using my keyboard. And here, as you see, the CPU uses and memory. It's using the GPCLI to pull some of the data, and C groups, kernel status files. And yeah, so it's pretty easier to just be on this flow. Right now, we don't have a established flow of using something, using some sort of CLI editor on Gitpod. You obviously have a nice and smooth flow for opening your workspace on VS Code desktop with just some clicks of button. But for SSH, it's kind of manual right now, and there are a bunch of things that you always have to do manually. I just tried to kind of simplify all of that with my dot files, and it works. And I realized how much you can do with dot files, which is great. And just to show you, I'll try port forwarding something. Now, if I just open it, it will work. As you see, it's in my local network right now, and I can see everything. There's also another thing I want to show. You might be wondering how it's working. If I open the terminal on VS Code, you can see that Tmux actually took over all of the Gitpod tags and put its windows on top of them. And I'm just taking all of the taxes and converting them to Tmux windows. and switching to Tmux instead of bash, which is the default shell. And that's how I'm doing it from my dot files. If I, yeah, so this is new Vim here, as you can see, can do stuff from here. And this is my dot file setup. It's setting up a bunch of things, such as some of the system packages and some of the userland tools, and all of it happens asynchronously, so it doesn't block the IDE startup. Otherwise, it would take at least 1 minute to really reach this state of launching Tmux and SSH. It only synchronously installs Tmux and some of the shell configs, and then starts up my workspace. And all of the other things, most of the things here are done in the background. It's something that can really help with the 120 seconds of dot files timeout limit on Gitpod. So you can start your commands in the background and they will always complete instead of being killed. So yeah, that's all I wanted to show. Now, also another thing, if I create a new terminal from VS Code, you'll see that instead of creating in VS Code, it will put that in Tmux. And I'll create another one, and you'll see that another one is created. I think it's pretty cool. Yeah. So if you have any questions, you can ask. I'm happy to answer.
Any questions for AXON? Oh, I can see on the chat. Adrian may have a question. Okay, first question is, where can we find your dot files? Did he leave the call? Oh no, AXON is still there.
Yeah, I'm still here. You can just put my dot files link in your Gitpod settings and it will work. However, for port forwarding to work, you'll need an additional client-side script to handle that. But everything else I've shown here should work. And you'll also have to set the SSH. You'll have to also set in item to handle the SSH protocol, the custom URL protocols, to so that item handles the SSH protocol whenever you open from browser. And that way you can get a smooth flow of opening SSH workspaces.
Awesome. We also have just a few comments. Oh, there's a question. Do you prefer Vim or Emacs?
I haven't really played around with Emacs, but Vim is something I'm still learning. It's not something I'm expert in. So let's see. When I'm done with Vim, maybe I'll take a look into Emacs. But that's going to be a long time.
It's okay. Vim is the correct answer, so you got it right.
It was a trick question the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Okay. Thank you so much, AXON, for that. I think Philip also shared your dot files on the chat, so if anyone wants to have a look at that, feel free to. I think we're good to go with our next demo. So, WaspLang folks, I think the stage is yours.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Is my setup okay? Can you hear me, see me loud and clear?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. A lot of thumbs up. Yeah, thank you very much for the invite, Pauline, and the whole community. Like, we have been in touch for a while, but this is the first time, we joined forces. So super excited to be here, meet you all, and show you what we are up to, and also how we use Gitpod and why it's such a good fit for what we are doing at WASP. So let me start with sharing my screen. And also please interrupt me if I'm sharing the wrong screen, not visible, or any of the possible problems. Screens. I think I should go with this one. Go live. Okay, perfect. Now you should see yourself, and now you should see the GitHub page, right? That all good? Okay, perfect.
Yes, all good.
Yeah, just before we start, I will actually immediately create a new project because I saw it takes like 3 minutes to initialize the Docker image. So we can just let that happen while we are chatting about the other stuff. So you will immediately get a bit of a demo. So we also have a WASP Quick Start guide by the courtesy of Gitpod. So in case you want to start a new project which is based on WASP, you should just go here and actually press here on the WASP template, which is going to generate a new repository, which is just a copy of the template application. So we can just call it, let's say it's our fun app, and we can see why it's going to be fun later. App. I will just keep it public. Okay, and it should, I think, just start now. Maybe I should refresh. Okay, perfect. And now I will just run it via Gitpod. That should do it. Okay, perfect. Now it should start building the Docker image. Okay, so this is going to take a couple of minutes, so I can just use that time to give you the presentation about WASP and what's going on with us. So let me just go into a slideshow with this, and I will just move Discord to the other screen so I can still see all of you. And now back to the presentation. Okay, is this working? Can you see the presentation? Okay, perfect. Yes, so welcome everybody. Here's a quick agenda for our today's chat. So first, just a little bit of introduction about who we are, who are the people behind WASP, and how we got started. Then the next part is actually, what was the motivation for WASP and for creating it. Then we can chat a little bit about why Gitpod is such a good fit for WASP and what benefits it brings. And then we have a demo time when we are going to build together a small application with a fun twist to it. And we can see both how WASP works and how it works together with Gitpod. So I think that's going to be a nice thing to check out. Shouldn't be too long altogether. I will try to keep it on the shorter side. And then if there is any questions or details you want to know, we can chat about that after the presentation. But you can also interrupt me, of course, if anything comes to your mind. Awesome. Let's get into it. So just a little bit about us, the people behind WASP. So I started WASP about 2.5 years ago, together with my twin brother, Martin. So you can see him also in the image. I'm the left one, the pretty one. He's the smart one. So we are both computer science people. We finished university, and we were kind of doing a bunch of different stuff from algorithms, bioinformatics. But somehow whatever we did, we ended up in web development, and kind of we never thought of ourselves as like purely web engineers or front-end engineer, back-end engineer. But it just turned out, whatever we were doing, we were in need of a kind of interface to communicate with our product. So we kind of spent, the most of the time on the website. Starting from jQuery and the big one on the front end, and Java and PHP on the back end, and kind of moving through the stacks and ending up with React, Node.js, which is popular today. So this was kind of the experience we had before we started WASP, and that kind of also comes, hand in hand in why we started it. We felt after going through so many stacks and building different platforms, web pages, applications, and kind of Google also confirms it. We felt it's getting pretty complicated, and there's so many new stacks coming in and new development practices, but still we kind of seem to be building similar applications all over again. So this was the main motivation why we tried to do something in this space. Of course, we created another solution. Yeah, but okay, let's see what is it about. So we had a couple of goals we wanted to achieve with this solution and problems we wanted to solve. So one of it was to enable developers to write less boilerplate. As you all know, that is kind of notorious in today's web development space. Kind of a lot of code going around just to get the basic setup done, which makes sense in a lot of instances, but also like in a lot of cases, there is like a lot of common patterns we could reuse, and that is also what happens in kind of all ways of abstracting stuff. So that is one thing. Another thing is just we are kind of going, let's say Ruby on Rails is one of our main models we are going after. So it's opinionated, but providing best practices out of the box. We think that is, that is kind of going to satisfy 80% of the cases, which can get started quickly with the best practices. And then again, we also try to leave space for flexibility on the other side. But of course, with any abstraction, it's always kind of, let's say, you can't have both at the same time. But you'll see more about that. And the last part is don't reinvent the wheel. So we are trying not to do everything at once. So it means all the WASP is, like a new programming language. It's very focused on what is it doing. So you are still using React, Node.js, and all your favorite technologies. And WASP is just kind of, let's say, a glue in between, helping you do stuff faster and with the best practices out of the box. That's a little bit about that. Our status. So as I said, like we started WASP about 2.5 years ago. Then about like 1 year switched to it full time, and got out alpha. So this is now where we are at. But we are now kind of in a mature version of alpha, and we plan to release beta in a couple of months. We had a bunch of projects created. It was like different, starting from MVPs, hackathons, people just doing side projects. But we also had a couple of applications in production, which was very exciting to see. Although we said people not to put stuff in production because it's still in alpha, but some were excited to try it out. And the last part is also, in the end, we got backed by Y Combinator, which is the first investor behind companies like Airbnb, GitLab, and the others. And this is also what enabled us to hire a team to work now full-time on WASP. So we are very excited, to see what we can do, just being able to focus full-time on this project. That's a little bit about what's going on. Now, just a bit of glimpse on how it works from the high level before we get into the code. So let's get into it. Yeah, I mean, how it works, again, like in 3 points. As I said, like WASP is like a simple configuration language. So it's almost like a JSON, just maybe a bit nicer. And it allows you to define high-level and very common features in any application. So, for example, your authentication, routing, data models, queries, actions, mutations, that is covered through WASP. And then again, your specific logic, like view logic is still you're using React. Node.js can be for your backend logic, business logic. And we're also using Prisma, which goes great hand in hand with Node.js as a database layer, as an SDK for a database. And in the end, for now, everything works. So we are supporting React and Node.js. So this is the stack that WASP is working with right now. Also, a little bit of an illustration just to make it a bit more visual. So there is a WASP file which has like high-level specification of features you want to have, then your specific logic in JSX and Node.js, and in the end, yeah, basically. So define high-level stuff, define your business logic, and what happens when it goes through our WASP compiler, you get the full React and Node.js application generated under the hood. So the idea is not to take this away and just go away, because then this is just a generator. It is actually what happens under the hood, and it keeps being regenerated as you change stuff on the left side. So this is just to kind of illustrate what's going under the hood. And that is it. And now I think, just a glimpse on the syntax of the language, but you will also see it soon enough in the demo. So it's, as I said, like it's pretty much like a JSON, very declarative, and we don't have variables, for loops, or similar stuff. For those who are familiar with something like Terraform, it's very similar to a Terraform, which means like configuration language for kind of defining your specifications and like needs. So for example, if we can define the new application, it's also very easy to get authentication running, just by saying which methods you want. For example, email and password, we are going to generate kind of all the forms you can use on the front end, and you can also go deeper and get the initial functions if you're going to want to build your own forms. But we do provide a lot of stuff out of the box. Similar is for routing, and here's an example of how you import your React code. So you just specify, okay, this is this route, this is a page, and then your React code takes over from there. That was it. And yeah, just a little bit about why Gitpod is such a good fit for WASP and why we love it. So, I mean, as you know already, I think all the reasons why Gitpod is good for any project, it also comes to that in WASP. So obviously, there is no need to depend on a specific version of stuff on your computer. You get like a stable version for each branch, for each environment you are having, which is great. And then again, also we had some problems with N1 issues, for example, which is totally sorted out with this. And I think lastly, it is just super convenient and super easy to start, especially, if you are doing a hackathon and usually you spend half of your time on just getting all the setup together for all the members. This is like super easy way to get started and share the code, share the environment. We tried it several times and it was amazing. So we are really happy to have something like that. So that is what I think those are the main things. And you will also see how it works when I show it now to you. Awesome. And yeah, now it's demo time. This should be Wasp riding a rocket, although it's a bee, but that's another thing. Yeah, I think I can just go into the code. So yeah, first thing is just like to run the initial app and see how it works. And this is what I showed you. Just go to this page and start from there. So yeah, I will just get out of the presentation now and let's go into the code. Our environment should have initialized. Oh, it's building image. It's done. Perfect. And I think we can even check it out how it looks like. So if I press here, it should open the application. And yeah, I mean, this is another great part. You can basically deploy it immediately and see it in action, share it with others. This is just the amazing feature of Gitpod, making it so much easier and pleasurable to develop with. Awesome. So what you're seeing is, just like a template which you get when you start a new Wasp application. We can quickly check out the code. So this is my new application. And what we have is we should ignore the dot files. So we have one main Wasp file, which you can see here defining just the name of the application, which is then visible in the tab. And we have one single route, which is pointing to main page.js React component. And X is here like the external code, which is your JS code, React code, Node.js code. So we have currently just main page.js, which has some basic, React component stuff. Okay, cool. Now we also get a nice coloring. So that's it. And now what we are going to do next, I will just zoom this out so it doesn't mess up my screen setup. Now we are going to make it a little bit more fun, as the title here says, and we are going to build one cool application for getting developer excuses. So Max is actually the mastermind. He's our DevRel, and he's also here in the audience. He's the mastermind behind this application, and I will show you how to build it. So what is going to be the end functionality? We will actually be, with the get excuse button, we are going to be querying external API for getting developer excuses. And then for those that we decide we really love and would love to have them for the future use, we can save them to our local database. So there's going to be several steps involved. And let's see how we can do that. Now, backing away from presentation. And I will be doing everything also from Gitpod, from our code right here. Okay, cool. So first step was just to create a new project, which we did. So now we have a separate repository. And now what are we going to do? The first phase is going to be just to fetch an excuse from an external API and display it on the screen. So let's do that first. So let's first go into our main Wasp file and update the app declaration. Nice. Let me just go here and check out my cheat sheet. Okay. So instead of this app declaration, we are going to have this one. So the name of the application is going to be appropriate. It wasps on my machine. And also one more thing we did here is we are going to use Tailwind. So this is currently the easiest way to import it. So we will just do this. And we will also use Axios for doing fetching from the external client. So we just imported Axios here. So that is it. And now we will also have a database with saved excuses. So let's add an entity kind of database model for saving those excuses. So let's do that. We can just have it here also in main Wasp file. So this is our database model. We call it entity in Wasp, and it is actually Prisma models under the hood. So it's the similar syntax for defining it, and this is what Wasp is using under the hood. So we will just have the regular ID and the text of the excuse, simple enough. And oh, can I zoom editor? Yes, great question. I always forget that. Let's see how that works. Yes. Better? Okay, I can go more. Let me know if I need to zoom it in more. Maybe also reduce this just a little bit. Okay, perfect. Thank you for pinging me, AXON. Yeah, that's it. So we have our database model now. We even have babies in the audience. That's perfect. Also, one thing that we need to do now is to migrate our database to basically introduce this new model to database schema. So what we can do is just wasp, we can just check what are the commands. Wasp db, so it's wasp db migrate dev. and it will ask us a question like, what is the name of this migration? If you have used Prisma, then you are going to be familiar with this like say concept of migrations. Edit excuse. You can just put any text here, and that's it. So nothing to show yet, but we have done this. And then the next part is going to be to add a query, which is going to fetch stuff from the external API. So let's do that. Entity add query. Okay, I will just go to queries. And here it is. Oh, yeah, we should also create a queries file in our X folder. So right here, let's create a new file, call it queries.js. It doesn't have to be queries.js, it can be anything. I will just call it like this for now. So we can keep our database and API queries here. So this is the query that we are going to have. And this is basically just a function which makes an API request to API dev excuses.s and returns some data from that. So that's one thing. And the second thing, once we have this function, is to declare this as a query in WASP file itself. Oh, cool. I will answer the questions later. Okay, awesome. So let's go to main WASP file, and let's just define our query here. It's right here for me. WASP. Yeah, we have query get excuse. Oops. Let's just put it here. Okay, so this is our first query, and query is basically anything that fetches data without changing anything. So it can be either from our database, local database, or from the API, as is the case in this occasion. So we are just importing your regular, JavaScript syntax query from our file, which we have here. And now that WASP is aware of that query, it can actually help us with stuff, as we are going to see later. So now the last part is just to go to our main page and add some logic to make the stuff visible. So let's do that. Let's go to our main page. Just a second. Okay, perfect. It's going to be pretty short, but still it will take a bit me typing everything out. Okay, main page. Let's just remove this boilerplate initially. And this is it. So as you can see, this is first, okay, this is just use state and use query because standard stuff. And this is the way to import queries we defined via WASP. So we have this special @wasp syntax, which then means it lets WASP know where to find the function that we defined in the queries.js file. That's it. And let's see what we have. We just have a single state to show the excuse. Here we are doing fetching, calling our function, which does the API call. And here we are using Tailwind, as you can also see. It will just show on the button click, you get an excuse and then show it here. So that is it. And I think that's everything. We can even try to run it now. We did the migration, we did all the stuff. Oh, I should just run wasp start. You can also keep it running all the time and do stuff in another terminal. Okay. Let's see how it works. Do we have any errors or anything? Seems like all is working. Cool. Let's try to get an excuse. Oh, and we are getting an excuse. Nice. So let's try a few different excuses. It must be leap year. That's a common one. Known bug with the programming language. Okay. Nice. Thank you for the encouraging messages in the chat. I appreciate it. So yeah, this is the first thing, and this works. So the cool thing is, we didn't have to declare an API. We kind of got it for free with WASP. We just had this query, and we could immediately use it on our front end. So that is one of the features that WASP offers and kind of saves you the usual, CRUD API work. Okay, awesome. Moving forward. Let's go to add our local database and saving stuff to it. I will just open this on another one. So what we have to do now is actually we will want to create an action that will save an excuse. Oh, wait, you're not seeing my stuff. Going back here. So now we had query, now we will add an action. So what is action going to do? This is basically like mutation, just a bit more general name. And this is going to save an excuse that we like to our local database, which we have initialized before. So let's create a file called actions.js. Again, rx. And again, it doesn't have to be called actions. You can do it anywhere you like. This is just now for demonstration purposes. Actions.js. Nice. And that's going to be right here. Okay. Awesome. This one is going to be pretty simple. Okay, coming right on. Oh, that's wrong one. Okay, now it worked. It's here. So as you can see, we have function save excuse, which basically receives excuse, and this is just Prisma SDK actually hidden here in the context. So we are just going to send this to a database. That's it. And then also similar as we did with query, we have to declare it in Wasp. So let's go to our main Wasp file. Just put it here. And also the syntax is going to be very similar to what we did with query, with one extra twist. Cool. So that's going to be this one. Saving an excuse. Nice. So everything is pretty much the same. We just say import this function, and except we have this part which says entities and then excuse. And this actually is a way of saying to Wasp which entity is going to be affected by this action. And based on that, we know, okay, so if we changed excuse database entity and there is like new stuff in there, then we know that we have to refresh queries which depend on those entities. This one is just API stuff, so it doesn't, but we are going to have another query which will get all the data from a database. So this way, Wasp will automatically refresh this query once we save a new excuse. So we'll see it in a minute. Okay, did this. And now let's add a button for saving excuses in our main Wasp. Oh, sorry, in the main page.js. So this is it. Let's see how we can add a button here. So that should just be, first we also want to import this function. The same way we imported getting excuse, we are now kind of importing save excuse. Perfect, and we will have a button, actually logic for handling this saving. So it's right here, beneath here. So this is just when somebody is going to click this button, which calls this callback, it's going to save it. And the last part we are missing is just a button to save this. Okay. We can just add it right here under this button. Okay. Okay, now everything is a bit crammed. It's a big font. Okay, this is it. I think we haven't forgotten anything. Let's see if it compiles. As you see, our Wasp start here, the process is running all the time, giving us useful information. Oh, it's here. Cool. So let's try it out. Okay, getting excuses, saving. So now we cannot see anything yet because we don't have a logic for displaying it. But the cool thing that I wanted to show you is how we can inspect our database via Wasp. So let's do it right now. Okay, we can actually see here it was successful. That's cool. But we can just do here now Wasp DB Studio, and it should open a database inspector. Okay, opening browser. Since we are using Prisma under the hood, we are actually using Prisma Studio here. So that was very nifty. We could use that. So let's check it out. Cool. We can see our model or entity here. And we can see we saved successfully an excuse. Let's say if we add another one. Okay, it's right here. Let's get another one. Get a nice excuse. Oh, something. Both start is not running anymore. I guess that messed it up. Okay. But that part works. Let's go back to actually displaying stuff. Okay, that was it. Let's just try to run it again to make sure everything works. Yeah, backend probably died since I cut a WASP start. Cool. Oh, I like this one. Yes, we are still saving stuff. Let's go back, and yeah, just the final touch is going to be to add to make it visible to see all of our favorite excuses. So we will have one final query in our query.js, and it's going to be called get all saved queries. So let me just go here. My queries. Okay, this one is going to be extremely short one. Okay, let's put it here. Okay, this is it. Footer is something that is just left over from GitHub. And let's just indent this nicely. So this is it. This is basically just give me all excuses from the database. So it's nothing fancy here. And in our WASP file, let's again define this, declare this, save excuses. And here you will see what I was telling you about before. Some motorcycles passing by. Okay, so here we have a query which we defined. Again, just importing it. But here is the thing: this is not an API call. This is actually doing stuff from the database. So we say, hey, like this query depends on the excuse entity. So if some action changes an excuse, then we know, we have to update this guy because something has changed. So this is a pretty nifty feature, saving you from doing all the manual work here. We know it's not always the most performant thing to do and something you might not want to do. So there is also a way to do like optimistic updates and instruct the WASP how to do it, especially in a performant way. Especially, for example, if you have everything on the same screen and you don't want to have like a lag between doing stuff on the client and then waiting for the server to process it. So there is also a way to deal with that. Nice. And the last part is, I think, just to update our view. So let's do that. Just loading stuff here and opening stuff here. Main page.js. And yeah, so what we need, let's again import our final query right here, and we will just create a component for showing all the excuses we saved. I'll just, sorry for this. I'll just put it right here. Here is our component, and then let's just invoke it right here. Oh, this one. Cool, we have it here. Let's just add it here. So yeah, just if there are any excuses, show the list of those excuses. Let's see if that works. Stuff is compiling. Excuses not defined. Oh, sorry, it's not compiling. Line 30, 10 excuses is not defined. We are missing our fetching, actually using the query that we have. Great. So that's right here. So we are using also use query, which also is used by WASP under the hood. So this is now fetching data as we load the page. Let's check it out. Oh, and it's already here. So we see the ones that we saved previously, and we could just see them in the studio for database. But now we can keep getting, let's say, which is a nice one. This one is pretty good. Let's save it. We have it for later. Okay, this is also a nice one. So yeah, I think this was it of the demo. Maybe just a couple of final remarks before I open it for discussion. I think I just had a couple of slides. So bear with me. Yeah, just kind of as a recap of what we did right now. We created a full stack application via WASP plus Gitpod. So the great thing is that Gitpod is saving you so much time on getting started and getting an environment running, and then WASP is helping you with the boilerplate and web application stuff. So it seems like a perfect match to get started quickly. We also fetch data via external API, as we saw, getting those excuses. And in the end, we also had interaction with our own database, doing some lightweight CRUD on it. And we had the benefit of not having to define the whole API. We could just use Wasp query and action system to get that functionality. So that was what we did, just kind of what's happening in the future. So as we said, we are moving forward to beta and plan to release it in a couple of months. So some of the features that are on the list for that, or maybe just a little bit after that, are going to be support for TypeScript, more authentication methods, which I think we already have now. Shane was working on that right now. Some support for permissions, roles, and also what is coming and is almost kind of rolled out is full IDE support with nice LSP, syntax highlighting, everything you would expect from a mature tool. And kind of, let's say, more crazy stuff that is so for now reserved for the future will be supporting other stacks. I think this is one of the main differences between web framework, which is kind of tightly coupled to a specific Python, JavaScript, or Ruby, for example. With this compiler approach, we actually have the flexibility to generate anything we want. So we could theoretically add support for other stacks in the future, and you could even combine multiple of those at the same time. So that's something definitely in the future, but we are very excited about this approach. Yeah, we saw richer language, all the monitoring, observability, which we have some hints of right now, but there is much more potential on that side. And yeah, just lastly, how can you get involved right now at this stage and help us out? Of course, anybody who tries Wasps out and give us feedback, that's gold for us right now, and that is what keeps us going. And this is how we got so far. Community feedback is just super important. Also, we have an ongoing initiative. Whoever contributes something to our code or builds an application and lets us know about it, we are going to send you a T-shirt immediately, like this one that I'm wearing right now. We also have a light version, which is completely yellow, so you can choose, do you want dark or light version? And yeah, finally, just find us on Discord, our newsletter, on GitHub. We are there every open source project. And yeah, finally, thank you very much for going through this with me. I hope it was interesting. And yeah, I will just stop now and let Pauline take over.
Oh my gosh, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. There was a lot of questions in the chat, and I'm conscious of time, but we did start 5 minutes late, so I will extend this for another 5 minutes, and I'll try to go through as many questions as possible. I'll start with my own, if that's okay. The question is, does your whole team exclusively work on Gitpod? And if not, why? That might be a cheeky question.
Great. Yeah, good question. I mean, we just fixed the final bug we have with Gitpod today. So right now it was on our side, not on your side. So from now it's fully functional and you can use it right away. We have been playing with it, and it was especially good, for quick projects and hackathons. But I myself, I'm more of power user, and I love my Vim setup and everything. So I'm still a bit more on that side, in love with my tools. But I think for anybody who is kind of just coming to a project and is new, and for contributors I think that's going to be a perfect tool to start with.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be curious as well, if you do have, the more you play around with Gitpod, if you do have specific things that you're like, as a power user, this is what's missing. I think that kind of feedback is super important to us as well. So we could do that.
Yes, exactly. I saw there are now also some integrations, with desktop Visual Studio Code, yes. And I'm sure there is coming for more editors. I think at that point it's going to be super exciting, to use power of kind of stable and reproducible environments.
Yes, absolutely. That is definitely, we've already started that. I think I'm preaching to the choir here. This is the Gitpod community, but it's not just Visual Studio Code in the browser. But yes, we can go into that, but we can talk about that offline. Awesome, thank you so much. Exactly. So there's a few questions from Will, and I think a few of them have been answered by other people in your team. The one I'd like to pick. Oh, this one's a good one. Wasp's mission similar to Redwood's. Thoughts?
Oh yes, awesome. Wait, I will just stop streaming. I think you cannot see my face right now.
Oh no, it's okay.
So maybe that is nicer. Yeah. Okay, I guess you can see me now. Cool. Yeah, I mean the main thing, I would say the most similar kind of let's say, products in the space are Redwood and Bleed.js. They're like the new ones. From the old ones, I said like we are modeling after Ruby on Rails, and Meteor.js, for those who know, was a great great inspiration for us. It was kind of offering this full stack experience. So now for the new ones, for Redwood and Bleed.js, I think both are great projects, and they are kind of, let's say, going after a similar vision, making full stack application development kind of easier and providing good stuff right out of the box. I would say the main difference is maybe in this technical approach, what I mentioned a bit on the presentation, going with kind of typical web framework or more like a DSL approach. So, the language approach is a bit harder because, you cannot utilize everything from the existing ecosystem, and we had to build out some stuff ourselves. But, having a language that we are building, we have kind of complete control over what's happening and what is the developer experience. So we can really minimize, that boilerplate you have to write, and we can really optimize, for every keyboard press, we can make sure, it's not in vain. So I would say that is one super exciting approach with the language approach. Sorry, think about language approach. And another thing is not being kind of strictly coupled to a specific technology. For example, I think Redwood is kind of focusing on the serverless side. Bleed.js is also kind of being, JavaScript in general. So of course, everything is there. But I would say the big kind of thing we are excited about is, we could support multiple stacks in the future. Like we could support, Go, Ruby, Python on the back end, Vue, Svelte, or React as now, Angular on the front end. So I think, coming in the future, next to the developer experience, this could be like a very exciting thing to build on top of Wasp, which is the foundations that we have right now that could enable that. That's still, kind of very, very much in the air. So I'm not going to kind of promote it too much. But for us in Wasp, that's very exciting. But in regular, I would say both, Wasp, Redwood, and Blitz are going kind of for the same problem in the same direction. And, for us, that is just the confirmation that the problem is there and that the solution is also going in the right direction for that.
Awesome. I hope that answered your question, Will.
Yeah, thank you so much. Brilliant answer.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Another question from Will actually is, he said, I'm loving what I'm seeing. Do you think this kind of declarative approach will lead to a no-code tool? Any plans on that?
Awesome. Yeah, it is also what we hinted, I think, on our kind of final page with possible features for the future, which said, like a visual editor. That's also very much in the future. But yeah, the main power of this declarative compiled approach is, basically Wasp can read your requirements from the Wasp file and say, okay, you need this route, you need this component, you need this. And, it can decide which code to generate. So, it could decide to generate a visual editor, which enables you to move some stuff around and still write your code. So I would say this could be a foundation for a tool like this. Again, like still very much in the future, very much unclear, but this was also one of the motivations, we had behind Wasp. Because, like the big thing that also motivated us to start Wasp was, like you have totally no code solutions, which are great for start. But if you're a developer, you're probably going to want your code flexibility. But on the other hand, full code solution can be like hard to start, and there's like a lot of things you have to reinvent and stuff. So, if you could kind of be a bridge in between in the future, allowing you to code when you need, but still having the flexibility to just quickly rearrange stuff via no code approach, that would be like the holy grail for us.
Awesome. And I think one final question, because I think your team has like gone through the other questions from AXON. Why Haskell?
Oh, awesome. Yeah, Shane is just writing a blog post about his experiences with Haskell, so you can also read about that soon. I would say like there is few main reasons, and like we are definitely we are not set in stone that Haskell is the only possible choice, and nothing else would have been good. I would say one reason would be that Haskell is kind of well known as a kind of go-to tool for building compilers, which is what we are doing. So having this type safety and these kind of high-level abstractions that Haskell is offering makes it really easy and really fast to build kind of robust stuff with it, like a compiler is. On the other hand, we personally liked Haskell and we're looking for an excuse to use it. So that was also a solid portion of a reason why we used Haskell. I think like a solid candidate would also, for example, be Rust. And that is, something that especially when we were starting out like 2.5 years ago, it wasn't so super prominent yet. But I think Rust would also have been an amazing choice, especially because of the community around it. although Haskell is still a bit more, specialized for compiler stuff. But yeah, I think any of those would have been a great base to build on top.
I think AXON asked that because he was thinking of Rust. he likes Rust. Okay, cool. I think that's all of the questions that we actually have. There's a lot of comments here, so feel free to go through them. It's been a hit. I think a lot of people are really interested in what you're building. So thank you so much. I think we'll finish it off there. I've got another meeting in 10 minutes, so I should probably prepare for that. But yeah, thank you so much once again, everyone who's demoed AXON, the WaspLang folks. It was awesome. We will try and get this on YouTube at some point this week. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out. I'll also share all of your links, your community. I want a t-shirt, so I'm going to get involved. And your Discord community and newsletter and things like that. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, you, Shane
everyone.
and Max, for being here with me. And yeah, see you all around.
Thank you. Thanks.
Awesome.